The way that the Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan fight ended actually really got me thinking. Knees to the head of a grounded opponent should be legal.
Move this man!
Now let me start this video off with a short little disclaimer. I know knees to the head of a downed opponent are an extremely dangerous technique that likely is the single hardest and most solid strike that can be thrown and has an extraordinarily high risk of causing a severe concussion. I know that they are very brutal, but please, with that being said, let me play devil's advocate here for just a second. We have had multiple incidents in recent years of fights being ruined by a knee to the head of a downed fighter in the heat of the moment. Greg Hardy to Alan Crowder, Eddie Alvarez to Dustin Poirier, John Jones to Anthony Smith, and recently Petr Yan to Aljamain Sterling and Eryk to Darren Stewart. Now I'm not saying add soccer kicks in and all that, because soccer kicks are a whole nother story. What exactly do you think a world-class trainer could do with a pro athlete that has been kicking a heavy bag since the age of 6? Yeah, I don't exactly want to see someone get murdered out there. Nah, the Unified MMA rules, or as I like to call them, the rules, have some good things going for them. The unified rules of mixed martial arts that both the UFC and Bellator operate under were, and still are, flawed, and yet they have been kept in place for so long, especially on the front of what exactly classifies as a down fighter, which was originally taken straight from boxing, where if any part of your body touches the canvas besides the soles of your feet, you are considered down, or in this case, a grounded fighter. However, fighters started to abuse this rule, finding a way to game the system by resting their fingertips on the mat at pretty much every opportunity in order to avoid knees from their opponents. So, the rule had to be changed multiple times, but I'm just giving you the quickest of overviews here, till we got to the new definition of the Unified MMA rules, which is as follows. Quote, a grounded fighter is defined as any part of the body other than a single hand and soles of the feet touching the fighting area floor. To be grounded, both hands, palm/fist down, and or any other body part must be touching the fighting area floor. A single knee arm makes the fighter grounded without having to have any other body part in touch with the fighting area floor. At this time, kicks and knees to the head will not be allowed. End quote.
As of 2018, we're going back, one hand, palm down, fist down. So they can't do anything with fingers, it's not about bearing weight. If they come down here, that puts you down. That puts you down. That does not. So that's what it is in all states.
And look at other large MMA promotions that do not operate under the rules. I mean, look at One Fighting Championship. Their rules go like this. They have knees to the head of a grounded opponent, and soccer kicks to the head are allowed as long as both fighters are grounded. It's not exactly the famous Pride, with all its head stomping, soccer kicking, and knees to the head of a grounded opponent glory that Japan and the Eastern Theater are so well known for. But answer me this, ultimately, what is the difference between a knee to the head of a downed opponent and a knee to the head of an opponent who is shooting in for a double leg takedown? Not much, huh? It might even be worse. Look at the Ben Askren KO by Jorge Masvidal. Ben is shooting in and ducks in his head, perfectly catching a flying knee upside his head. That's a pretty hard shot, about the hardest shot that you can take in the sport. I mean, George is literally getting a running start, and it was perfectly legal. Or the Frankie Edgar KO by Corey Sandhagen, where Frankie misjudges the strike that his opponent is going to throw, either to throw a punch or to shoot for a takedown. I'm not exactly sure. But he ends up getting caught right on the chin with a vicious flying knee, flatline. Frankie said he doesn't even remember it, but it was also very much legal. Versus the illegal knees. Anthony Smith getting knee in the head while he was in his title fight with John Jones back in early 2019. A knee upside the head to a squatting Smith who was attempting to return to his feet near the cage and had just one hand down caused a huge foul for Jones, but because it was in Nevada, which had the new definition of unified rules, it was illegal. Or the most recent example when Eryk kneed Darren Stewart in a very similar situation in which Stewart was trying to return to his feet and was hit with a knee to the head by Anders. And of course, Petr Yan threw away his bantamweight belt against Aljamain Sterling after he illegally kneed him while he was absolutely dominating the fight. Aljo shot in for a takedown, and was denied and took a knee to the head in a transitional position, aside from whether or not the fighters were able to continue, because that's not the point. They don't make the rules. And actually, the clarification or removal of the no knees to a grounded fighter rule could help to not only eliminate unnecessary fouls, but aid the flow of combat. If Anthony Smith, Chris Weidman, or especially Aljamain Sterling knew that they weren't safe from knees in the position that they were in, do you think they would have moved? Well, duh. Of course they would have, either pulling guard or attempting a different technique. The reason that they didn't is because they knew that they were protected by the rules. My point is, why exactly are knees to the head of a grounded fighter, which aren't more dangerous than ones to a standing fighter, not allowed? So what exactly is the point of keeping the rule? All in all, knees to the head of a grounded opponent would certainly open up a new and different dynamic in grappling transitions. As a fan and someone who appreciates martial arts, I want to see the best the sport has to offer in challenging positions for the fighters. Do I want to see fighters get their head kicked off and take extreme amounts of damage? Nope. And with MMA seemingly evolving by the week with new techniques and counters, it'd be interesting to see the game plans some of the best fight minds in the sport could hatch up with a new element to be considered. Knees to the head of the current definition of a down fighter should be allowed, or at least worked towards, because gone are the days of the UFC and other large MMA promotions as being looked at as a sport full of mindless barbarians, right? So let's make it happen. It's a legitimate technique that could really spice things up.